I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. More iRacing action here on the National Racing Network, as tonight it will be the stars and cars of the iRacing Silver Crown Cup taking on what, well, I guess is the late, great Auto Club Speedway, the fastest racetrack in the world. Gilles de Ferran setting a closed course speed record here of 241.428 miles per hour. We did the math in the pre-race. It was a tick under 30 seconds, about 29.7 seconds to get around this race course. Absolutely blazingly fast speeds. This place is just absolutely incredible. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth as always here tonight by Mr. Patrick Byrne. And I'll tell you what, Bizzle, Auto Club Speedway, it's now the corners you're looking at are nothing but a pile of dirt. But my goodness, is this place fast, and it is going to be wild for these Silver Crown cars.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It's not more than a pile of dirt now. During the wintertime here, before they completely demo the track, I think we could make this the fastest dirt track in the world.
Sorry about that. My earbud cut out for just a second, so I missed what the question or what the comment from you was. But yeah.
I was saying make this place the fastest dirt track in the world before they completely demo it.
You know what? It would be really cool. Although they are leaving the front straightaway kind of where it is. So unfortunately, I don't think that's necessarily going to be an option. But let's pick up Derek Love, who is out on the speedway as we speak. God, that would be awesome. Just let the big block mods and the 410 sprint cars just blast around this place for a day. That would be terrifyingly fast.
I just want to see a 410 sprint car do 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, actually, oh, look at that. Kyle Westwood going top of the charts, 39.822. The comment from Sign-On, the closed course speed record is weird because it doesn't look that fast. That was the crazy thing about that lap that Gilles de Ferran set. It was so smooth. It was, I mean, he was just cruising at an average speed of 241 miles an hour. So he was going into turn one at 250, 255.
I believe it was Lane Prost that said it. He said, when it looks like I'm going fast, I am going slow. When it looks like I'm going slow, I am going fast.
That is exactly right. As Thomas Lewandowski moves to the top of the board, 39.720 seconds. D-Love got a slot in second quick. Let's pick up Brian Elmore. Down, coming across the line to complete his qualification run. Lap number one for Elmore was good for seventh quick. He will move to second quick. Great lap. 39.802, only 82 thousandths of a second off the top of the board. Brandon Buckberger up into position number 9, 39.949 seconds. Todd Taylor now moving up into position number 7. Jeffrey Stanton coming through turns 3 and 4 to complete his qualification run. Lap number 1 was a 40.058 for Stanton. See what he can do here on lap number 2, and it will be... let's see, good enough for 13th quick. A little bit of a surprise there. Pick up the guy who won the 645 split race in an absolutely incredible battle with Thomas Lewandowski. James Watson, He is going to go second quick and only 28 thousandths off of quick time. Oh my goodness. We have a tight field lined up here for you tonight as qualifications have come to a conclusion, and now we're going to have to get ready to start lining cars up on the grid and getting them ready to roll off. But I'll tell you what, Bizzle, that I drove in the 645 race, and this thing was really an interesting race because not only was the cars, the handling was changing pretty significantly, but you had to really work the tools a lot as well, both going loose and tight on the weight jacker here to make, depending on if you were out front, if you were up on the higher lanes, you were really manipulating the tools throughout the race.
Yeah, and what Watson was saying too is he felt like he undergeared the car. So out front, when you're the car leading, it's perfect, but he was afraid it wouldn't have enough oomph in it later in the RPM range to really pass another car if you're sitting behind or stuck in the pack. Luckily for Watson here, it looks like he's on the outside pole, so hopefully he keeps it on the point here tonight.
Well, yeah, we'll take a look and see how that develops because your front row is also your front two in the championship standings. Now, this does factor in that 6:45 p.m. race. Now, I dropped the SOF pretty significantly on that race, but Thomas Lewandowski is your points leader, sitting on 496 markers. James Watson is going to be 35 points back in the second position, followed by Josh Batista, Matthias Swank, and Brandon Buchberger. But you see the big drop off to Buchberger in fourth. That's because the top four drivers have all scored in this week already. So that'll give you a good idea of who is where, and now we're going to have to take a look here as the field starts to roll off, and we will bring you tonight's starting lineup. On the pole of the T. Watson Racing Setups Martin Sports number 2, it is New York's Thomas Lewandowski. Lining up to his outside of the Team Watson Racing Setups National Racing Network number 4, it is James Watson. Second row of the grid tonight, we'll have Brian Elmore involved in an early incident in that 645 race, so he's looking to pick up some points here tonight alongside of the Street Side Classics number 1 of Derek Love. Kyle Westwood out of Pennsylvania in the Boomer Button boxes, number 13, lining up alongside of the Red Ream Rocket, Josh Batista in the number 20 on the race car, the 7 in timing and scoring. Nick Aldrich in the Dizzy V Designs T. Watson Racing Setups number 98. He'll be the 15 on the timing and scoring loops, alongside of Joe Gauthier in the number 12 Spotify entry. Zach Scott Nicky, the Team Watson Racing Setups National Racing Network ZAS Designs number 14, alongside of Todd Taylor out of South Carolina in car number 17. Zach Evans in the B5 number 11, alongside of Indiana's Brent Elmore in position number 10, in car number 10, Ryan Darlington and Brandon Buchberger on row number 7. Look for Buchberger to make a charge forward in that Dean's Farms number 3. Jeffrey Stanton and Matthias Swank on row number 8. Row 9 will have Laura Gerhardt and Jason Gardner. 18 cars make up the starting grid. Field is coming down. Great flag goes in the air. We are underway here at Auto Club. And Watson very quickly to the bottom of the racetrack. Taking a look at the weather conditions, Bizzle, that's going to be important. 72-degree track temperature for the better part of the first 10 or 15 laps. These cars will be absolutely locked down to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, it's going to be flat out, almost like running a race at Talladega, where you're not going to move off of that bottom line. You're just going to keep it wide open and hang it there. As the race goes on, however, it's going to start getting tight, and you're going to start having to lift just a hair, and these cars are going to start getting 2 and 3 wide.
Yeah, you were, by lap 10 or 12, you were starting to go one click down on the track car, or the crossweight, I guess it is, trying to loosen the car up ever so slightly. And then you just keep loosening and loosening and loosening, and finally you're going, man, I really need to get off the brakes here. Something that these guys do very well, that, quite frankly, I'm not all that good at, is they are very good at managing the tires, and they'll start the lifting even early on in this race.
Yeah, the more tire saving you do early in the race, the more it'll kind of benefit you on the back end of the run as we approach lap number 50.
So everybody pretty well single filed out. Give you a little bit of a unique look here. The crank it up cameras are up now. As Zach Scott Nicky puts up a new fastest lap of the race of 39.533. Scott Nicky setting that lap out of Oh gosh, let's see here. Position number 9 of note, Brandon Buckberger sitting back in position number 16. Love the speed shot there. Brandon Buckberger falling towards the back of this field, sitting in that 16th position. You can see the Deist Farms entry way to the back of the pack here. If you're playing a tire conservation strategy and doing a lot of lifting, this is the smart play, but it is so incredibly difficult to put yourself in that position and just say, I have to be patient. I don't have that in my system.
Yeah, you really can't be pushing and making contact with their cars. You kind of just have to sit back and wait for something to happen. I mean, you did a good job of it in the 645 race, staying back behind all the cars, letting them sort out their troubles. A whole bunch of them wrecked, and you ended up with a podium finish. So it's kind of the key here.
Yeah, I was not going to blow my own horn totally here. But yeah, good, fantastic run. Team Watson Racing setup was fantastic. And it was interesting talking to James about it in the pre-race, because he was talking about the fact that he feels like Lewandowski has a little bit more in terms of the raw pace of the car, but they were trying to build in a little bit more drivability. Early on, only 5 laps in, we're really not going to see a whole lot of that coming into play. It's more going to be later in the race. You really will start to see this field spread out. I mean, you kind of have that second pack that has developed. Joe Gauthier is leading. Man, they're already starting to get a little squirrely, and if you're doing that early, these cars are not going to handle well late in this race. And it's interesting because you've always been taught the lighter the back end of the car gets, the looser it wants to go. And that just is not the case here at Auto Club. You go from push to maybe some snap oversteer, but it's not anything you can't correct.
No, the way these cars are set up, the more weight you have over that right rear tire, the more weight you have on the left rear. And everything that happens in one corner happens to the opposite corner. So you want as much weight on that left front as possible to get these things to turn.
I love the comment from Sign On. At the front, Union Pacific Express. The second pack, it's a Los Angeles traffic jam. Yeah, it's the 405 out here in this second pack of cars headed up by Vic Aldrich. Leaders are starting to split themselves out a little bit as well, but that's just kind of how you run through the corners. You kind of find yourself some clean air, help the car turn a little bit, and then you're just tucking right back in line and nobody's really gaining a whole lot. That was kind of the frustrating thing being behind the wheel in that earlier race, was that you, in theory, you get 2, 3, 4 cars lined up on the outside, you should be able to make a move. And it just doesn't happen early in the race. I mean, Laura Gerhardt was up inside the top 5 for the majority of that opening race. We see Thomas Lewandowski move high, I would slide high, Laura would slide high, and there just was not a run to develop early on. You really almost have to manage the air like we talk about when you're running the next gen cars.
Yeah, I mean, these things don't really have wings. They have those little winglets over the rear tire, and that's about it. But going this fast, they punch a huge hole in the air.
Ryan Bugash saying it's Auto Club Speedway, so it's technically the 10. Yeah, I can agree with that. If nothing else, we're good for moderate levels of accuracy on these broadcasts. We're not shooting for, like, really good. Moderately acceptable is usually okay by our standards. I say that we put so much effort into these things. Man, that front pack, it is so cool to watch them spread out as they get to the entrance to the corner. D-Love slides just a little bit high, grabs a little bit of air on that right front corner, helps keep the front of the car planted and allows you to make the move. And you kind of just slot right back in line. But that's part of the tire saving strategy. You kind of pull out, you get some air, maybe slow the car down a hair, arc the entry to the corner a little, and you're just taking the easier way around. Let's go on board here with Derek Love. The NRN Exorcist cam. There's a look at James Watson just out the front. You can hear how much off throttle there is at the midpoint of the corner. You swing it right around backwards and, well, there's the 6 of Brian Elmore. I'll tell you what, though, we might even have to go back a little bit further here. Let's pick up Vic Aldrich, who's on the outside. He's got Joe Gauthier looking inside. My goodness, the 18 of Brian Darlington right there. There's Joe Gauthier and Zach Scott-Nicky leading that group. Oh, little contact. Aldrich has to back way out of the throttle. That's going to open up the inside lane for Brandon Buckberger and Jeffrey Stanton.
Buckberger just sneaks in bottom there. Now Aldrich's going to be hung out to dry.
Yeah, that was kind of the interesting thing. Was it early on, you kind of just had to wait for somebody in front of you to make a mistake. Even seeing Zach Scott-Nicky just barely clip the apron there. That was enough to unsettle the car and potentially open up a window into turn 1. Now, Joe Gauthier electing to back out. You just breathe the throttle a little bit. No point in making that big run early in the race, because this second pack, without a yellow, they are going to have to get single filed out and maybe even use a little bit of the bump draft we're seeing there from Gauthier on Scott-Nicky. They're going to have to do something to catch the front pack. Front 5 all single file and quite frankly behaving themselves early on in this race. It's that second pack. Oh, hold on to it. Scott-Nicky way loose. So was Joe Gauthier and Brian Darlington. My goodness. That was a big save at the midpoint of the corner. Jeffrey Stanton. Oh, man. A little bit of contact there with Darlington. Shoves him up the racetrack. Aldrich now going to try. Oh, there's contact. Zach Evans make it collected. They're going to spin down to the inside of the racetrack. No caution as of yet. Oh, what a heartbreaker. Jason Gardner, Brian Darlington both getting involved, and we will not get a caution flag.
I am not sure how that didn't bring out the caution. That's wild.
I'll tell you what, we noticed that in the 645. The cars would slide off the racing line, and just that was it. There was no caution that was going to come. I mean, they wadded up like 6 cars off of turn 4. 2 of them flipped out of the ballpark. 2 of them went straight to the, or 4 of them went straight to the apron, and there was no caution flag that came out for that. So a little bit interesting, but that's a piece of information that the drivers that ran that early race, they're going to have that in their back pocket and know, hey, we may not get a caution flag in this race. Gauthier and Scott-Nicky dueling side by side into turn number 3. Keep your eye out. There's Brandon Buckberger and Jeffrey Stanton starting to make their way forward. Both of those cars up 6 positions. We'll show you your hard charger. It's going to be Buckberger and Stanton tied for that one, followed by Matthias Swank, Zach Scott-Nicky, and Laura Gerhardt up 4, 3, and 3 respectively. Gauthier way up the racetrack in 1 and 2. He may lose a handful of positions here. Jeffrey Stanton driving a little bit on the injured list here this week. Banged up, we mentioned this last night in the sprint car race from Southern National. Banged up his wrist pretty bad. So practically driving one-handed and did not turn many laps in practice. Seeing Victoria Renzi checking in. Happy room noises. Yes, it is. Oh my goodness, they're going to be 3 wide off turn 2. Stanton gets right back in line behind Buckberger, trying to get the shove to get him up to the rear bumper of Scott Nicky. You can bump draft these cars. It's just, you have to be so darn careful in how you do it.
You have to be dead on balls. There's no better term for it. There's a point on the back of these cars, and the front of them is flat. You have to hit it straight on, or that point will spin this car out faster than you can even blink your eyes.
Yeah, you basically, about the only spot you can get away with a bump draft is down the back stretch. I had somebody try to bump draft me in the middle of turn 2, and it was wholly unpleasant. I was sideways wrecking off the corner. It's just, you just can't do it because there is no way when the cars are turning, you can't square the bumpers up. And now Brendan Buckberger may be caught out on the high side a little bit here. Is Jeffrey Stanton going to be able to pull along to the inside? And pretty rapidly approaching the halfway point, and you're starting to see some of these cars work their way up the racetrack. Brandon Buckberger up into that second lane. Zach Scott Nicky in the second lane. Oh. 10 of Brent Elmore giving a little bit of a bump there to Scott Nicky down the back stretch. And even when you're in a straight line, it unsettles the car like pretty significantly. Still a few laps away from the halfway point in tonight's Silver Crown Cup race here at the late, great Auto Club Speedway.
It's a shame this track is getting torn down.
It really
out of
is.
all of the tracks out there, this one is young too. It was only built, what, 1997 was the first year of this track?
Yep, 1997 was the first year that they opened this place. Actually, Roger Penske built it as a kind of second Michigan, almost as a, I want to be able to test year-round. And Michigan, which was a perfect racetrack to test Indy cars at, you could now come to Southern California and test when it was too cold to test in Michigan.
Not only that, but this place is built on what? A garbage dump? It used to be a dump. Literally a dump.
I think it was a manufacturing plant of some sort because they left the smokestacks in the infield, at least initially. Sign on saying you can bump draft. It doesn't mean you should. Yeah, but then again, I remember GP3 cars bump drafting at Monza, so sillier things have happened. Yeah, it went about as well for those guys as it would for these guys. Ray checking in, showing some love for Team Watson Racing. Those guys up at the front of the field, holding down the fort. Brett Elmore looking outside of Zach Scott Nicky. We got to do a special shout out, though, here at the front of the field. Thomas Lewandowski Sr., we'll just say dealing with some health issues at the moment, but I know for a fact he is watching tonight. Mr. Lewandowski, be well, sir. Hope you're doing all right, brother. And enjoy the show that your kid's putting on here. Thomas leading every lap of this race early on. Oh, almost a little bit of contact there between Watson and Love in the middle of turn number 2. Wondering when we're going to start to see these guys move up the racetrack. Derek Love already about a lane off the bottom. James Watson dialed a little bit of free into the car after the 6:45 race. And I think you're seeing that come into play here a little bit because he's really able to hold on to the inside of the racetrack. Let's see. Let's bring up Sign On saying happy ream noises in 5th. Yes, Nieje Camargo. What's up, Nieje? Giving James Watson some love. Victoria Renzieski. So why did they tear down this track? Nieje answers greed. Not going to say you're wrong, but International Speedway Corp that now owns this among a pile of other NASCAR venues wanted a Southern California short track capable of handling the Cup Series. Irwindale Speedway can't do it. As great of a racetrack as it is, Irwindale does not have the infrastructure to handle, 60, 80,000 fans that you would bring to a short track race. So they're going to turn what is basically the front stretch into a short track, and the rest of the track, this has all been torn down. The billboards are gone, the safer barriers are gone, the asphalt is gone. It's basically to right where from the grandstands where they start and finish on the front stretch is still there. That's going to be part of the short track. And the rest of it is going to be sold off for things like Amazon warehouses. So, yeah, greed is probably not the worst word. Oh, and the AJ checking in saying he got disconnected from the bottom split race. Boston server doing its thing. Well, Boston to Brazil is a long way.
Yeah, it's a whole nother time zone, too. Ooh, we got contact in the back. Someone's going around. Looks like Zach Scott-Nicky.
Yeah, Scott-Nicky.
Did he save that?
Big slide. Yes, he did. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. We may have the replay look at this one. Oh my goodness, what a battle there too, but let's take a look, maybe a little bit of contact here. So we'll follow along with Zach Scott-Nicky. Oh, he was sideways. Wow, big hit with Elmore. And both of them kept it straight. Wow.
How in the world are those cars still going?
Oh my goodness. That may have been save of the year, Canada. And the fact that Brent Elmore is still towards the front of that pack, that's the wild thing. However, there is a fair bit of damage on that car of Elmore. We'll bring up the focus camera here, and you can see the front end of that number 10 really not looking so hot. Now Buckberger and Stanton going to try to make that outside lane work. Here at lap 29 into the second half of the race, this is really when that outside lane started to come into play in a very, very big way. You could make ground up on cars trying to hold the inside lane. It's just a scratch. It'll buff out. Yeah, maybe post-race. We'll see one bouncing off the wall. That was, I believe, the 18 of Brian Darlington. Top 5 still just behaving themselves, hanging out there in line. We're going to stick with this absolute insanity that is the second pack. On board here with Brandon Buckberger. Swing the camera around. There's Jeffrey Stanton giving him the bump draft down the back straightaway. Oh my goodness. And Brent Elmore in that damaged number 10 is down to the inside of Buckberger through the corner. God, these cars are so squirrely. I know they were this squirrely in the 645, but it didn't feel like they were this squirrely.
When you're in the car without force feedback on 30-year-old hardware, you can miss a little bit of the feeling.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Going on board here with Brandon because he's doing something pretty cool this season. Putting up a donation for Driven to Save Lives for every podium that he achieves in the broadcast races. $5 for a third place finish, $10 for a second place finish, and $50 for every win this season. Thank you very much, Brandon. We appreciate your efforts here to support Driven to Save Lives. AJ Camargo says, give me a mallet in 5 minutes, and that car will be ruined.
Give me a mallet in 2 minutes, I can ruin a car.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Buckberger staying up in front of Stanton. This is going to be back for the 6th position. At this point, with only 17 to go, Buckberger and Stanton need a caution, and they need one bad. But they also need to not be the caution. Heading back up to the front, side by side, Derek Love, James Watson drag race down the backstretch towards turn number 3. Watson had the second position, or excuse me, Love had the second position for just a split second as they were exiting turn number 2. Watson able to stay tucked in the draft to Thomas Lewandowski. That 6th car in line is, I believe, the 16 of Jason Gardner, and he is multiple laps out. Now 1 lap down to the field, so not in contention there, but man, a lot of things really starting to get tight back there for Josh Batista in the 20. His car swings way to the outside, may lose the 4th position to Brian Elmore. This was really kind of the decision point, was when did you abandon the bottom? Because you're sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you give up the bottom of the racetrack, Derek Love is going to fill the hole and pass you. But he may pass you on the outside anyway if he gets a little bit of drafting help.
Especially now we have a 6-car kind of train right up here. It's not going to be like the 645 race where you're kind of just stuck too wide drag racing for 6 laps. It's going to be an absolute dogfight trying to get to that top spot.
Yeah, that was when we had the big wreck in that 645 split. It was, once that happened, there was 4 cars. It was me chasing down the top 3. And with them running side by side, just the hole in the air is so big, you're going to make up the ground whether you want to or not. Here, with now having 6 cars in this fight, the math starts to get a little bit interesting, especially if you're Josh Batista. If you were doing some tire saving back there, you're going to feel like you have an absolute rocket ship at the midpoint of the corner, and you find that you're actually lifting pretty significantly to not run over the people in front of you. We'll go back to checking in on this second pack because they're still 2 and 3 wide throughout this group back here. Oh, man. Stanton got a shove. I think that was from Matthias Swag that shoved him into Buckberger. And both of those cars were dancing all over the place down the front stretch. The hard part of this is it is a mental exercise as much as it is a physical one at times. We'll slide back to the front here because we've got a comment coming in from the AJ Camargo saying James needs to find a hole or second is the best he can get. I don't necessarily know that that's true.
We should put phrasing with that one. There we go.
Yes, but I understand what you're saying. The later in this race you go, like James started on pole in that 645 race and did exactly what Thomas Lewandowski is doing. Led every lap and was able to kind of control the pace. Where I think the difference comes in is at some point Lewandowski is going to have to defend that high lane. Unless they've just all been tire saving, but I don't think that's the case. The 15-lap average for Thomas Lewandowski is a 39.999. The 5-lap average is a 39.994. You're talking within 0.005 of a second, identical lap times over the last 15 laps. I don't think you can be that fuel tire safety, if that makes sense. At least not at a place like this, as we're now down to 10 to go.
Yeah, it looks like that outside line is starting to pick up some momentum too, so curious to see if Derek Love is able to get anything done on Lewandowski up here.
Yeah, and you sort of get a little bit of a Pruitt fade out of the inside lane too, because D-Love, Josh Batista, Brian Elmore up top there, they're running the higher lane, but they're being forced a little bit higher up as the two cars, especially if you watch them through 1 and 2. Lewandowski and Watson are not able to hold that anchored bottom the way they were in 3 and 4. They slide up a half a lane, and it kind of forces Love and Batista up half a lane as well. Tell you what, this may be a shot for D-Love to go 2 for 1, as he's, at least for the moment, around James Watson, and he's getting a big draft shove from Josh Batista. And this is where the decision time comes in for Thomas Lewandowski, because at what point do you choose to block that lane up top? If you make the block, you run the risk of opening the door too much for James Watson. But if you don't block the run, you may get past either way. And that time you saw Derek Love. He ran a higher line through 1 and 2. Oh, he sold Watson the dummy. Tries to force it up the inside. Watson able to slam the door closed at the entrance to 3. That was a huge run that Love had. And now you see him doing it again. Kind of running a little bit higher up the racetrack, trying to build the run. We got Robert Kreiser checking in here. What's going on, brother? Hopefully you are doing well. Getting ready to check out some Tulsa shootout action that is, well, just kicked off. 300 plus races over the next 5 days or something, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. A bit over 1,000 entries for the Tulsa shootout. Absolutely wild. Every micro sprint racer in the country is in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now.
Well, down to 6 laps to go. D-Love's trying to make that outside lane work. Josh Batista is there. Oh my goodness, this second pack is still just absolutely wild back here. Brandon Buckberger holding off Jeffrey Stanton and Brent Elmore. They've been 2 by 2. Now they're going to make it 3 wide up the middle. That's Matthias Sway. Oh my goodness. I can't believe these guys have not wadded up a pile of race cars yet. And there is a 1 attempt at a green-white checkered finish as well here in the Silver Crown Cup. The caution laps do count, but we would get at least 1 attempt at a green-white checkered. Got to get back to the front, though. Love again looking outside of Watson. He's going to have Josh Batista giving him the drafting help. Also, the 6 of Brian Elmore working his way up the racetrack. The lap car of Jason Gardner holding on just barely at the back of this. But not close enough to really offer that little extra push to anybody. Oh man, Batista was way wide through turn 2 that time. This was where you got into the race and I went, oh God, there's only 10 clicks of crossweight you can dial in. At that point, it was all lift in getting this car turned.
Yeah, it just becomes a battle of who's saved the tires the most and who has to lift the least.
Yeah, we're going to find that out here in the next 3 laps. Thomas Lewandowski has led all 47 circuits around the Auto Club Speedway. Next week's race is going to be pretty darn good as well. We're going to head off to Dover could not be more different of a racetrack, but we always get a great show out of these cars as Batista right up under the back bumper at D-Love into 3. Oh my God. Me AJ, you win. James is doing a Maradona and sniffing that white line. I don't think we're allowed to say that on television.
God dang, this is YouTube.
Yeah, we can get away with it. Batista, again, really, really wide. Absolutely no help to D-Love down the back straightaway.
It's a shame we're not at Homestead-Miami tonight.
Something tells me Los Angeles has plenty of that as well.
Less Lamborghini Countachs, though.
Yes. White flag is out. 1 lap to go. Derek Love still trying to make the outside lane work. Now the question becomes, does James Watson make a move anywhere? Lewandowski, you know, is going to head for the apron. Does Watson try to get there first? Down the backstretch. Oh, what a shove from Watson. Huge into turn number 3. Batista now going to look inside of Love. Love looking to the outside of Watson off of 4. It'll be a drag race down to the line. Twin checkers go in the air. Thomas Lewandowski gets the win at Auto Club. James Watson comes home second. Derek Love third. The top 5 separated by 1/3 of a second. At the start-finish line. Oh my goodness. What a race. Kind of what we expected. Brandon Buchberger coming home in the 6th position. With everybody over the start-finish line, we'll take a look and show you tonight's finishing results. Thomas Lewandowski by a 10th over James Watson. Derek Love only 4/100ths of a second back for third. And it was even closer with Josh Batista for the 4th position. 4 cars separated by a 10.5 at the start-finish line. That was incredible. Brian Elmore coming home 5th. 6th tonight. 11 seconds back. It shows you what running double file will do. Brandon Buchberger, Jeffrey Stanton, Brent Elmore, Laura Gerhardt, and Zach Scott Nicky. Second page of the leaderboard, we'll have Vic Aldrich, Todd Taylor, Zach Evans, and Joe Gauthier all finishing on the lead lap. Matthias Swank finishing in the 15th position, 1 lap down, followed by Jason Gardner and Kyle Westwood, all 1 lap behind the race leaders. Brian Darlington having the early issue. He finishes 26 laps behind your race winner. So now we'll take a look. We'll get ready here for our victory lane interviews, but my goodness, man, I'll tell you what, Bizzle, we got the show we were hoping for here tonight.
Yeah, that was freaking awesome. These cars put on a fantastic show here at Auto Club, and frankly, it was a great send-off to the track. It's not going anywhere on iRacing. We'll still race here again, but...
Yeah, that is correct. But yes, the at least a final run here for the... well, I guess in the virtual world, but let's bring in Mr. Thomas Lewandowski, our race winner tonight. We talked a little bit earlier tonight. Dad's watching the show. Got to make the shout out for him, and I'll tell you what, man, putting on a fantastic show. Talk us through the race a little bit, because James was right there. You guys both worked the inside lane really, really well all night long, but you knew that challenge was going to be coming late.
Oh yeah, I ran a couple of these, earlier, and I knew tires actually matter at the end. So right from the get-go, I was, letting off, in 1 and 2, pretty much both, keeping it wide open in 3 and 4, just because I knew, I had to save something in the bank there for the end, because with, just how much the car wants to start, pushing.
Yeah, and quite frankly, that tire save was really pretty important. I mean, it was your best lap was a 39.804, and your averages were all 39.9s to within 1/100th of a second over the 5, 10, and 15 lap averages. How do you manage to make pace like that? Because it seems like this car, with having to make the lifts and work the tools and everything else, there's so many opportunities to, I guess, screw up the tire save, so to speak. So how difficult is that to manage?
Oh, it's pretty difficult, just because like you got to watch your lines, and you got to make sure you're not scrubbing the tires, too much. And it's just all about optimizing all that to save as much tire as you can, and using the throttle. You don't want to be making the car either over rotate and hurting the right rear, or you don't want to be have too much understeer in the corner, like mid corner, to hurt the right front. So it's a real balancing act. And when you got James and Derek and everyone behind me, it's never easy or fun.
Yeah, and quite frankly, this one's going to be a whole lot better of a points haul than the 645 was, with a split of 33-74. This is turning into a multi-split high SOF field each and every week. I would imagine that kind of makes it a little bit stressful, because you don't have that opportunity to say, I'll run the 645, I'll run a Thursday show. You kind of have to get it done here in this top split.
Yeah, it's very much like almost like a league race where you get like one shot at it pretty much, so you got to really, make, the best points, on these races. And, I'm just glad that, could keep pulled today, by over James, and then just, manage my race perfectly and, get the win.
Well, congratulations on the big dub here tonight, Thomas. Second one of the night. And I believe second or third of the broadcast season. Congratulations on it. And before we let you go, do all those sponsor plugs and shout outs here too.
I just got to, thank you guys, and, hope everyone had a good holiday, and, thank, God that my dad, was okay on, Christmas and stuff. So you should be home soon. So, and, I have all my friends over at the Drill Al, so, and, Happy New Year to everyone as well.
All right, buddy. Well, Happy New Year to you and your family as well. And yes, very good news to hear that about how your dad's doing. Man, that was an absolutely fantastic show. Let's bring up our runner-up finisher tonight here, Mr. James Watson. And man, I'll tell you what, James, we talked about it after the 645 race, how important qualifying was going to be. And even you making that initial move right on the start to get behind Thomas was really, really big for your finish tonight.
Yeah, I knew that just that little bit. He got me in qualifying. That was pretty much the race there. It's just kind of hold it and get what you can from that point. So you hope that some sort of miracle will happen, but knowing it's Thomas, that miracle's not going to come. So you're just hoping, just going to get what you can, really.
Well, does the thought come into your head at all to say, hey, I know Derek's going to try it outside. He's been trying it for the last 15 laps. Is there any thought to, I'm going to go with him? As soon as I see that move, I'm going to go?
No, because every time I've tried that with Derek, he just passes the inside. So when you get left out to dry, you kind of know what to do and what not to do. So some guys just don't want to work with people, and that's fine. So just do what you can at that moment in time.
Well, I tell you what, it was a great show that you guys put on here, and quite frankly, it's a shame you guys missed the action in the second pack, because my God, they were running around like their hair was on fire. Congratulations on the podium finish tonight here, bud. And before we let you go, do all the sponsor plugs and shout outs.
Yes, sir. Got to thank everyone at Team Watson Racing Setups. Use code Wattsman39 for 10% off at checkout. I got to thank you and everyone else at NRN for always sticking with us. ZS Designs and Dizzy V Designs for putting together my paint schemes, Mart Sports, some racing apparel, Boomer button boxes, and my folks watching at home.
All right, brother. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you coming to hang out in the booth with us here for just a minute. And now we got to bring up our third place finisher tonight here, Mr. Derek Love. And I'll tell you what, I threw a little shade at you last night unintentionally, but tonight, I don't know that there is any shade to throw, man. Was there anything you could have done differently in that race? I mean, you were trying everything under the sun to make that outside lane work.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking of going through the race was I could just hang out behind them and just not learn anything. So I was trying every line I could just to see early on where I could get a run, how I could time it. And it seemed to work. It'd get me up there in position, but I really just needed someone behind me. And by the time Josh got up there, his tires are already gone. So he couldn't quite hang with me in that where I needed. And man, I hate it for the guys back at the shop. We felt like we always run fast here at the super speedways, but just couldn't put it on pole, and track position's key. So we gave it all we had, though.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I know we had been all been having discussions that wishing it had been like June and 140 degrees out here. How is it frustrating? Is it what's the emotional thing that goes into? You see the track temp, you kind of know what the race is going to be going in, and at that point, you're really banking on one lap.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised that the second lane worked as well as it did. I could get some really big runs there. So very optimistic then, I guess, for the next time when we come back. If it is quite a bit warmer, there will be a lot of opportunity in that second lane. Oh, well, we'll just gather up the points we got and celebrate a couple P3s this week and be happy we at least made it out of here with only a couple bruises and some other races.
Yeah, I was going to say, get ready to head off to Dover, where I think the racing will be pretty significantly more intense 1 week from tonight. So Derek, congratulations on the podium once again. Another good points night for you here. And before we let you go, do all those big sponsor plugs and shout outs.
Yeah, moment of silence here for this track. Hate to see it go away, in real life. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah.
And shout out to the Street Side Classic Machine, the guys at the shop, and we'll be back next week seeing you up here in the booth again.
All right, buddy. Well, congratulations once again on the podium. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us up here in the booth, and we'll go back to the live look of, what this place used to look like, Bizzle, and I'll tell you what, if there was, like you said it in the intro, if there was a track to get rid of, Auto Club California Speedway was not it. It seems like every race here has been absolutely spectacular.
I mean, if they wanted to build a short track on the property, there's so much property here to build a short track. Do one of the little Legends ovals in the front stretch. Even down the back stretch, wall it up, do it almost like the dirt track inside of Turn 3 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Put some banking there, put a little short track. You got a short track here at Auto Club.
Yeah, greed was the right word. That property made a lot of money when it sold. But we still at least have it here in the virtual world, which is quite frankly spectacular because we get to do some crazy stuff on it. And man, these guys did not disappoint here tonight. Tomorrow night will not be a disappointment either. The Indy Pro 2000 cars, the USF Pros, heading off to Gateway. Well, the artist formerly known as Gateway anyway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, Madison, Illinois. I ran one of those races last night, and oh my goodness, that is going to be a spectacular show. With the Oval Ringers coming in against the big SOF guys, it is not going to be a show you'll want to miss. That one coming up 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe that's 3 a.m. for those of you in Europe. Good luck, but watch the replay back. I got to thank everybody who is checking into the comments here tonight as well. We appreciate the engagement that really drives things on YouTube. The super chats, super thanks are down there. If you're interested, the channel memberships are there as well. Next week, we come back New Year's Day. We will not be on the air with the Silver Crowns. They will run next Wednesday again. So our next show on the air will be Tuesday, January 2nd, the Sprint Car Cup, heading off to New Smyrna Speedway, New Smyrna Beach, Florida. That is going to be an absolutely fantastic show. Bizzle and I may be running some of those races over the course of the week as that changes over, because New Smyrna is a blast to run. Looking forward to that one coming up next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, it'll be the Silver Crown Cup from Dover Motor Speedway. And then the Indy Pro, USF Pro, heading off to Laguna Seca. Great road course for those cars. But with that, it's time for Bizzle and I to get the heck on out of here. Fantastic show tonight. This has been a ton of fun, and we're looking forward to bringing more of it to you. If we don't see you all tomorrow night, Happy New Year. Please be safe. Don't do anything dumb. Don't drink and drive, all that kind of stuff. With that, for Patrick Byrne and everybody else here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great night, everybody.